Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. For those of you who attend Faith Christian School here, we're done. We made it. It's summer. I'm not sure if the teachers are happier or the kids. The teachers, yeah, probably. But if not, I hope you are wrapping up school soon. If you have not finished, finish strong. The end is in sight, I'm sure, hopefully. Don't give up early. Okay, finish strong. You've worked hard all year. Don't give up early. But we are going to launch back into Saul being king in 1 Samuel chapter 15 is where we're going to pick up today. So we have talked about Saul and how he was king and how Samuel didn't really want the people to have a king because they wanted them to listen to God. That's right, Peter, they should listen to God rather than the king. And we've talked about some different things throughout Saul's life, but today in chapter 15, Samuel goes to Saul and he says, Saul, you've got to go kill the Amalekites. And by kill, you have to wipe them out. God did not like the Amalekites for the way that the Amalekites had treated the Israelites when they left Egypt. So verse number 3, I want to read it to you because God gives some specific directions to Samuel. It says, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. He says, you are it didn't say pandas. I think you're safe this time. Supposed to slay everything, even Peter brought along a little friend for us today. Even the sheep he was supposed to kill. God wanted them completely wiped out. He didn't want any remnant left. Well, Saul gathers his men. The next verse tells us he takes 200,000 footmen and then another 10,000 men from Judah, and he goes to battle, and he is doing exactly what God says. He starts in one town, goes to another, covers the whole area, and he is killing people like he's supposed to. Except, let's look at verse number 9. But Saul and the people spared Agag. The verse before tells us that Agag was the king. He did not kill the king. He spared Agag and the best of the sheep and of the oxen and of the fatlings and the lambs and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refuse, that they destroyed utterly. So Saul, what did God tell Saul to do? Do you remember, boys and girls? He had to kill them all. Supposed to kill all of them, not leave any behind. And yet, he left them behind. He left some behind. Well, do you think God is going to be happy that he disobeyed? No, God's not going to be happy. What do you think Samuel's going to have to say to Saul about his disobedience? Yeah, no, that's right, Peter. God does not like it. Well, God talks to Samuel and God tells Samuel, this is what happened. And Samuel gets so upset. Verse number 11 says, that's right, Peter, it's about to say that. It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he is turned back from following me and hath not performed my commandments. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. He was so sad about what's taking place that he cries and he talks to the Lord, and he's just conversing with God, saying, God, I don't know what to do, basically. He's saying he's so upset, he's so sad, he's so grieved, he's not sure what to do about this. Well, God answers Samuel and he tells him what he should do about this. And Samuel goes and he finds Saul at the battlefield, and okay, he finds Saul. What do you think Saul's going to say? No idea? I mean, do you think he's going to take responsibility? Do you think he's going to blame someone else? Do you think he thinks he obeyed? Well, let's look at what the Bible tells us about what happened. Verse number 13, and Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of the Lord, I have performed the commandment of the Lord. He says, I did it. I fulfilled the commandment of the Lord. Well, did he, boys and girls? Did he fulfill that commandment? Of course not. He left Agag alive and he left some of the animals alive. And Samuel's response to him, now remember, Samuel already knows, okay? Be sure your sin will find you out. It's kind of like when the teacher walks back in and knows exactly what you've done, or your parents walk in while you're having a fight. Yeah, Samuel knew. Okay, he wasn't going to be fooled by Saul. Verse number 14, and Samuel said, what meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? He's like, if you've done everything you were supposed to do, how come I can hear those animals? How come I can hear them making their noises? And okay, so what do you think? Saul has now been confronted with the truth. Samuel has said, I hear them. Now what is Saul going to do? Boys and girls, he doesn't admit it yet. He still puts it off. He still does not admit. It goes on to tell us he starts to say they instead of I. He blames the people. He says the people wanted me to do it. Yeah, his friend over there. The people wanted me to do it. They told me to do it. And he's the king. He's the one in charge. What do you mean the people told him to do it? But he's making excuses. He doesn't want to accept responsibility for what he's done. Well, in verse number 20, a little bit before that, before we get to where Saul admits it, Samuel basically confronts him with his sin. And he's like, it's not the people. You spared the king. You spared the animals. It wasn't the people. You told them, you let them. It's on you as the authority. And Saul tries to say, well, we were going to offer sacrifices. We were going to give them back to God. Boys and girls, think about it for a minute. Think real hard. Would mom and dad rather you obey, or would mom and dad rather you give them a gift? If you think about it real hard and you're honest, mom and dad would rather you obey than get a present. Now, our present's nice, yes, and it's great to give mom a Mother's Day gift or give them a hug, that's right, Peter, or give dad a Father's Day gift. But boys and girls, mom and dad would much rather have us obey. And that's what Samuel's conveying to Saul. He's saying God would rather you obey than offer a sacrifice. Well, in verse number 20, and Saul said unto Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. But verse 21, but the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. So Samuel's answer, and then we're going to wrap it up here. And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. He says it's much better to obey. Boys and girls, I hope this week as you go about your week, some of you will still have school to go to, some of you will not, and you'll get to spend some extra time at home. I hope you make sure you obey. Whether it's teachers at church, whether it's parents at school, whether it's moms and dads or whoever you're with, that you are obeying. God's word clearly states for us, boys and girls, that obedience is important. It is important to obey God and what he says. I hope this week that you will obey God. Well, Peter brought along some special guests that want to come up and say goodbye to you as we wish our goodbye. So let's let Peter's guests come on up here. All right, can you wave goodbye to the boys and girls with us? Bye. See you next week.